healthy company looks inward, right? And so just like a healthy person looks inward, find out what they stand for and what's good for them, and what values they have, and kind of like the soul. And so that's what we're doing today. We've been calling it our value-based culture, which is something that David started, and I just want to say that this is really, first of all, it's really nothing new for Continental. This part of it is new. I think you guys, anybody that's been around here long enough, knows that we care a lot about culture and what are our values, and that you kind of see every day. Some of them you don't even see, and I think I said that before. Some of the best values we have you'll never know about. We helping people out when they need help, and charitable contributions and community services and things like that. So we got this Continental Way. This is the Continental Way, okay? And which is interesting because there's a lot of things that aren't there that I would have put on there. Things like community and health, and what else? Oh, caring and friendship, things like that. But this wasn't about me or Dave or anybody outside the company. This is something that you guys came up with through the course of these many months now. And these are the findings that we found through our many meetings, and what is valuable to you, not to us. And so this is the reflection of that. The critique members said to us that they thought we were on the right track with this. They said that this is an important thing for any company. They also were here and saw our working atmosphere, which isn't on there either, as being the top shelf, right? One of the best they've ever seen, better than their own, as far as where we work. And I think that is a cultural significant thing as well. But so we're videoing this because so many people are out of town. It's important enough to, by the way, Rick Martyr and all the guys, JR and all those guys, thanks. We'll be getting a YouTube out to you with this meeting we're having. But so we wanted to video the event, but I think the most important thing about culture that you can learn is just asking people that haven't been here their whole time, guys like Dan O'Sullivan and Brian Howe, who were at Hewen, and ask them the difference in businesses and philosophy. Ask our field foremen that have been around and don't get the tools, and maybe that's a little bit different thing that's here. And so, I mean, I think that's kind of the way you can learn about, the grass isn't always greener, and that we really are, really dynamic and are on the right track. So I'm glad, David brought this to the forefront. He starts things and I finish them, a lot of times. Like fights, yeah, exactly. That's always the way it worked. But David possesses these things too. He's a humorous guy. I think he thinks he's the funniest guy in the room. Humor and fun, honesty. So he possesses all these qualities. I think we all do. And for Lauren, it's been a bit about kind of like herding cats. I think Lauren has been put in an interesting position and has done very well. I want to say thank you, Lauren, for all you've done to kick off this stage of the process and what we're doing. That's all I really have. I mean, it's just a little corny, I know, because all we want to do is build work and kind of really the takeaway from being satisfied customers and the satisfaction of the work, the work at hand. Romeo, how are you? So we try to blur the line. We try to have fun. Obviously, the parties are going to start coming back. We want to celebrate our successes. It's my feeling that you blur the lines between work and fun as much as possible. It doesn't always have to be, like pounding rocks or anything like that. But it's really my feeling as a team that if you bring everybody together and bring in the kind of natural motivation to work, that you see a satisfying future in yourselves, and you're treated fairly here and with respect, and you're recognized and appreciated. You feel cared about, and you feel like your work makes a difference regardless of your title, what you do. You try to put a few bucks in your pocket and support your families. That's the biggest thing, I think, that we're all here for. Take home, and where your talent is effectively used, and you go home at the end of the day feeling secure about what you do and the contributions that you make. I think that is what we're trying to. Really, that's the nature of what we're trying to do, and then you also make some friends along the way, and so I just thought I'd take advantage of this time to kind of say that that's my piece, and that I appreciate how we've gotten here, and I appreciate the look forward that this will do. Obviously, this is just the first stage. Lauren, why don't you come on up, or start preparing to come on up? It's a long way to come on over here. But it's first stage, and Lauren's going to continue on it, and David and I will continue on it, and I thank you very much. So, thanks.
Yeah, take my chair. We've defined 5 values for Continental. It's the culmination of a lot of time and effort. I recognize that it has taken time away from your work and what you're usually here to do. So what I want to say is that David and Steve wouldn't have made this kind of an investment in order to, as David says, take 5 values and slap them on the wall and forget about them. These are going to come to life. We're going to use this as a base, and we're going to use it going forward and make it really matter and make a difference. Ultimately, it's going to make our work easier, more efficient, hopefully more enjoyable. You have heard me say bunches of times, we want to be happy, so our customers can be happy, so SECO can be successful. So now we're ready to make that next step. I originally said that for each one of these, we'd have 3 to 5 statements. The idea of having the 3 to 5 statements was that so you could memorize them and make it easy to use. As you can see, there's more than that. And the reason that happened is that we wanted to take everything that you said into account and get it all on there, because everything that came up was so valuable. So don't try to memorize them. They're there as a representative sample in order to create a definition for each one of the values. Some of you said, why don't David and Steve just tell us what they want? When you look at them, you'll see that some of the statements are your words. You will have heard them in the meetings or seen them when I sent out the summary. Some of them came directly from Dave and Stephen. So you'll notice that too. We did get some of their kind of direct thoughts that may not have come up from the rest of us. When we were sitting in this room coming up with the definitions, in most of the groups, the question came up of, are we talking about how we interact with each other? Are we talking about how we interact with the customer? And yes, some of them, sometimes it's with the customer, sometimes it's internally, and sometimes it's both. So when we look at these, the first one is customer for life, externally focused, right? The next 2, enforce accountability and candid interaction, are both. So it's how we interact with the customers as well as how we interact with each other. And then the last 2, continuous development, and one team, one direction are internally focused. So here's the big question. What's next? How do we make this investment pay off? How do we turn these words into making work easier, more efficient, hopefully more enjoyable, and us more profitable? So we're going to take actions at 3 levels: the company, departments, and individually. At the company level, we're looking at structures and processes, things to make sure that we have clear direction and training and getting feedback from our supervisors. When I started here, I was working on competencies and job descriptions and a training framework, and then moved on to performance evaluations. And then took a step back so that we could define the values. So now we're ready to move forward on that again, using this as the building blocks for creating those next pieces, to make sure that what we do with those next pieces are aligned with this. I've had the opportunity to listen to your concerns, and so now when I work on these other pieces, it will address your requests specifically for clear expectations, feedback, recognition, consequences, focused training, knowledge sharing, and leadership development. These are all things that you asked for, and now they will be incorporated in those 2 kind of packages of a lot of different things. Okay, the performance reviews will include competencies, expectations, and action plans. The training structure is going to include training options and ways to apply and share what you learn. Right now, I'm assessing training opportunities, specifically as you requested, in areas of communication and leadership development. At the department level, each department's going to come up with processes and commitments that reflect the values. They're going to be following through with summit ideas, looking at ways that they can work better internally within the department, as well as looking for ways to work better across departments. And I'm going to help with that communication across departments. I saw some of it during the meetings where we were working across departments, and I saw difficult but effective conversations between folks, between project managers and field ops and purchasing and accounting. So it's starting to happen, and I understand that those same kinds of conversations happened at the summit. So we're going to keep that going. At the individual level, each of us is going to make commitments and an action plan for development. We need to look for ways to improve. It's really easy to point our finger and say, that guy over there, he's being inconsiderate or irresponsible. We need to turn it around and look at ourselves, because we may not realize that something that we're doing somebody else might perceive as inconsiderate, irresponsible, or full of it. So we need to look at that, because somebody's doing it, right? None of us think that we are, but it could be happening. My personal commitments is to become better at communicating with you as a group. There's 2 parts to that. One is getting better at this, right? Standing up here and talking. Could definitely use some improvement there. So that's one of the things that I'm going to work on. The other thing that I think is real important is to communicate my status, or the status of the work that I'm doing, right? So, and I'm going to ask you to help me be accountable, so that if you're wondering, for example, what the heck is going on with performance reviews, right? Then come ask me, what the heck is going on with performance reviews? And then I can say, oh, darn, I needed to communicate that. So that's the other piece that I'm going to be working on. So you can see that when you're creating your own individual commitments and plans, it's nothing huge. It's not anything terribly different than what you might do anyway if you're looking at your own personal and professional development. And if you look at the board and look at these examples that are representative, you can probably say, well, you know, there's one that I can do something with, right? So that's one of my commitments to you. While we're moving forward and taking this to the next step, at the company level, at the department level, don't wait for it to be done, right? Because there's that third piece, there's the individual level. And you can't sit around and say, well, when are they going to finish that training framework? You know, when are we going to see the performance reviews? It takes time to do those things when you're doing it at the bigger levels. So we will start to do those. I'll communicate the status. And I'm asking you to also start doing your piece in moving this to the next step. You said that trust is a significant value. Trust what we're doing. Give it a chance. In addition to what I've said that I'm going to do, the performance reviews, the training structure, and helping to facilitate the communication across departments, I'm also going to encourage David and the management team to make and prioritize and to follow through with their plans, because that needs obviously to happen as well. So I'm going to try to make that happen. You invested the time and energy to create this. It's yours, it's Continental's, and it will make a difference with some focus and persistence. And I thank all of you for creating this, because I'm really excited about it making a difference for us going forward. And now David is going to fill in whatever I left out.
Wow, I don't have that much time.
And what you see up here is the results of that, and it's really all your work that you put together. Not to sound corny, but we've listened. We stayed out of the process. We let it bubble up, and I'm excited about this stuff. I believe in this stuff deeply. This is not the end. This is just the beginning. We heard from our peer group critique that the employees wanted to see the end. And I'm just here to tell you this is not the end. However, this is just a step. But this is a step that you can visualize, and we can start to wrap our head around what all this stuff means. And really, a values-based culture is exactly, I think, what Lauren and my brother were talking about. You have to embody it. You have to start to live it. And how do you do that? I mean, it's consistent messaging around it. It's tying the employee performance reviews to it. It's reading it and internalizing it. So these are, if we don't do anything with this, it's nothing more than a bunch of words, and we've wasted a bunch of time on it. So we need, believe me, you're going to hear it constantly from me. Probably it's going to make you nauseated. But in order to drill it down and to get it moving forward, that's what I'm going to do, and that's what I need to do. And you're going to hear it from your department heads, and you're going to hear it, and you're going to hear it, and you're going to hear it until you believe it, until we live it, okay? That's basically how this stuff goes. So I was really pleased by the, it's cute that it all fit into a SECO thing, and that was, I give Lauren the credit for that, and I give my brother the credit for kind of making it work, and he came up with this format in about a week's time and spent a bunch of different, this is about the 10th or 12th iteration of this, so I know he gets into that stuff, and it's I'm glad he does, because I couldn't do this. So thank you for that. And I'm sure there's going to be some tangible takeaway for everybody, whether it's something on your desk or there's some stuff maybe on the wall, but this is certainly the first iteration of where we're at. So you can't really read it from where you're at, but there's a bunch of your words and sentences that you guys came up with. So again, thank you all for getting involved. I'm a big believer in employee engagement. I'm a big believer that ideas come from everywhere, and great ideas can come from anywhere. So with that, I want to switch from the values to kind of the peer group critique, which a lot of you also participated in, if not all. So going back 3 weeks now, they came through, they interviewed everybody, they sat everybody down without management. They asked certain individuals at times to leave. I felt bad for my kid who was in one of the things that they figured out his last name was Witz, and they gave him the heave-ho. We heard your feedback. And the results of that process were Stephen, my sister, and I sat and basically listened to their strengths, weaknesses, and recommendations about our company by department and overall for about 2 hours on Friday morning. And behind all that, and they gave us basically a 7-page document of all of that. I've shared that 7-page document with each of the department heads. Behind that, there's also about 6 hours of audio tape that when they sit together on Thursday afternoon after you guys left and until they presented the document and presented to us on Friday morning, they sat for 6 hours, and there was 8 to 20 mics around the table, and you picked up every single conversation, every sidebar conversation, and you heard it. So behind all the comments on the document and behind all the comments that came up on Friday morning, there's flavor there behind it. And so I've gone through all of it. I think Steve's there almost through all of it. It's a lot to sit and listen to.
Take it a little more personal.
Yeah, it's hard to swallow. But the idea behind the critique is everybody has blind spots, right? And I'm really pleased to say that there's not a single breach of confidence. That's not always the case in some of these things as we go around from company to company. Nobody's come to me with anything. I don't think anybody's come to any of the department heads with anything specifically naming any individual out of saying such. So that's great. That's the first thing that I always worry about. The second thing is the feedback was honest and it was open and it was direct. And lastly is the pride that I get from being the president of this company, because they said, without a doubt, the tenure, the loyalty, the respect amongst each other and amongst the company is fantastic. They said we have every single tool that we have necessary to do whatever the hell we want to do. The issue is, what do we want to do, right? So narrowly, they focused our business down, and this is the critique part of the recommendation. They said, you basically, from our perception, and you have to take into account this is a bunch of people's perception over a day and a half or 2 days. So some of it's accurate, some of it's not. But they basically narrowed our business down and said, you are a data center contractor and you are a tenant interior finish contractor. They said, and their recommendation is if at some point either one of those dies off, it's a big miss for you guys, right? And so you need to address either considering how you either become more competitive in those markets and get more business, or look out into other marketplaces, whether it's healthcare, whether it's transit, whether it's power stations. So that's feedback for us to take and decide what to do with. And so we're gonna look at that. The second thing is a business development plan. All right, how do you go about it? If you're going to go after healthcare, if you're going to go after transit, if you're going to go after power stations, what's your plan? Do you make an assessment of your people, determine if they're the right people you have in place, and if not, go out and hire those people. So all this boils down into the overarching thing was, we don't have a strategic plan. We do lots of offsites and we do lots of talking, and the feedback we got back was long on initiatives, short on follow-through. I get it. That's squarely on my shoulders, and I heard you loud and clear. So we're looking at, this is the first step of that. So this, was part of going down a strategic planning road before they even got here. The summit was part of talking and breaking down barriers and getting people to open up. But we need a more overarching plan, and I need to be accountable to give clear direction of where we're going. And so that's something that I've got to work on here the next 6 to 8 to 12 months. So that's the feedback we got back. But, it's hard, and I can speak for Steve, to sit there and take criticism and take it with an open chin and just take it squarely on the chin. I mean, they gave us good news as well as bad. You don't really listen to the good news. You kind of know the good news, or you hope you do, but when they give you a left uppercut, you're like, wow. But I will tell you that not a single thing that they said came out of left field. Not a single thing they said surprised me, which means I knew we had those issues, and it's great when they pick at scabs and they make you commit to becoming better. So, as I said, I've shared it with all the department heads. Our goal is on the 30th of this month, we're going to have an open session amongst us to discuss what the next steps are moving forward, and you guys will be looped in on where we're moving after that. We're here to celebrate. That's the other thing that they clearly said in the peer group critique is you guys have great people. You've accomplished a lot of good things. come to some conclusion on the values-based culture thing, celebrate it, celebrate the fact that you guys went through the peer group critique. That's a stressful event, and keep continuing, whether it's the trade show or whether it's summer picnics or whether it's whatever. The one thing I think about when I think about values-based culture, it gives me a step, when things aren't going so good, it gives me the opportunity to step back and reflect and say, what do we really stand for? So that's what it means to me in simplistic terms. So I could have used a lot of these things over the past 6 years to make some better judgments than I did. And so hopefully moving forward, it gives a guiding light for all of us. And it's a recruiting tool for people coming in the organization. What do you stand for? Well, here it is. Fair enough? Thanks, guys.